Masechta Bava basra daf ayin beis amud aleph. The first line, the top will meet. So the Gemara answered the kasha on Rav Huna, because Rav Huna we learned yesterday that if somebody buys a field or sells a field and he leaves the trees for himself, Rav Huna paskins that he's not only leaving the trees for himself, he's leaving the karka for himself. Then we asked the kasha from another brayse. It says Rav Shimon said that if somebody was magdish his soda to hagdish, and he had carob trees, choshva trees, a carob tree that is an adult tree that you graft, or a sycamore tree that they already pruned, so it's an older tree, so it's a cheshva tree. So we said, even though it's not supposed to be included, it'll be included. Why? Because it's yoinek from the karka. It's called gedulei hekdesh, and gedulei hekdesh has in like hekdesh. So what are we going to do now? So Rav Huna said, but Rav Huna says it's not gedulei hekdesh. He says the guy leaves the karka for himself, so it's not going from hekdesh; it's going from his own karka. So the Gemara answered because Rav Shimon holds like Rabbi Akiva. He even sells the karka of the tree. So really the karka of the tree belongs to Hagdish. And therefore it's yonik from the Hagdish. And it's called Gidul Hagdish. That's why they're going to get the trees. Because the trees are living off of the karka that belongs to Hagdish. But Rav Huna will hold like the Rabbanan, we said yesterday, and like the sheets of the Chachamim, that Amich B'ayin Ra Meicha, and he doesn't, and therefore the karka does belong to the person who left the trees for himself. Who? Rav Shimon said, the Gemara concluded that Rav Shimon will hold like Rabbi Akiva, that when Hamich B'ayin Yafa Meicha, and it was sold graciously, the karka, and therefore it belonged to Hegdish, and even though carob tree is chashuv, but since it's gedulei from the karka, it's growing from the karka, it's from Hegdish. Rav Huna no disagrees. Rav Huna holds like the Chachamim. Okay, so mi matzis mukas lo l'Rab Shimon. The first words mi matzis mukmas lo l'Rab Shimon to Rabbi Akiva. Could we then say Rab Shimon holds like Rabbi Akiva that a meicha is by Yafam meicha and the karka belongs to Hegdish? I'm going to give you. I'll show you a brayse vaket. I'll tell you what the brayse. Higdish leishe ilanis. Somebody was marked as 3 trees that was in the Sdei Achuzah. So from halacha, what's that Sdei Achuzah? Sdei Achuzah is somebody who inherited a field that was distributed from Yeshua ben Nun's time when they came into Eretz Yisrael. So the halacha is, if you want to redeem it, they give you a minimum price, a very small price. For a kur, for shloishim sa of land, the halacha is you only have to pay 50 silver shkalim if you sold it right after Shemitah, where there's 50 years left, till 49 years till Yovel. And every year you deduct a punyan, a silver coin with a punyan, whatever the cheshbon is. But it's a very cheap price for 50 silver shkalim. But what's if it wasn't yours Dei Achuzah? You're redeeming a field stamp from Hegdish, then you have to pay the full Shabbos, so the full price. So what happened over here? He was magdish 3 ilones. He was magdish 3 ilones that was in the Sdei Achuzah, and it says b'mata asar l'beisah. The cloud 3 ilones, in order to be kind of the karka, it has to be a Sdei ilones. It has to be a field called a field of ilones. When is it called a field of ilones? When he buys a minimum of 3 trees. Also, those 3 trees have to be proportionate. We're talking about what kind of amount of space, how much space does it have to be in? That means from a field that has 10 saplings there in a beisah, that means it's 2,500 feet, 250 feet per tree needs to be spaced out between each tree equally. So he says, Harei Higdish. So he wasn't only Magdish the Ilonis, when he was Magdish 3 trees to Hegdish, Hegdish got a Zdei Ilon, he got a field, so he got it with the Karka. So he was not only Magdish the Ilonis, he was Magdish with the Karka. So it's one thing. If it's Magdish with the Karka, he's not going to have to pay for the trees separately. The trees and the Karka is one thing, and when it comes to redeem it from Hegdish, all he has to pay is 50 silver shkolim. The size of karka that we're talking about, 3 trees that were given away to Hagdish, was from an area of basra that was 50 by 50, 2,500 feet. And between each tree, he got 3 of them. Just 3 is enough to make it into a field, as they elon, so he got it with the karka. 250 feet around each piece of karka.
Oh, he didn't get the rest of it.
No, he was only Magdish 3. It's fine. But 3 is enough to make it a
field
zadeh.
that can hold 10 trees.
Right. So we gave you the cheshbon, a field that there has to be an area that holds 10 saplings, which needs 250 feet around each one. He gave 3 away. So once you give 3 away, that's already called a zadeh on its own. So now when he wants to redeem it as a sdei achuzah, he's not just redeeming trees. He's redeeming the karka with the trees. It's one thing. So So Taisa says, what does it mean? And also the trees that were between these trees means trees that don't srak, that are barren trees, that they don't give off frucht, nothing. Therefore, when he redeems these ilonis with the karka, he redeems 30 sa, a kur, for 50 silver shekel, b'chamishim shekel kesef. Beis zera choymes ha'orim is a shetach of shloishim sa, of 30 sa. He brings down. That's the wording of the pasuk. Beis zera choymes ha'orim b'chamishim shekel kesef. So Beis zera choymes ha'orim is a shetach was a shloisha soyim. Okay, of soyim. So he says, for only 50 silver pieces, he's getting those 3 trees together with the land. 30 saw for 50 silver pieces. That's a lot. That's a bargain. Huh?
30 stuff every tree?
No. He can buy a mount of 30 saw for 50 silver pieces if he sold it right after by his day achuzah to redeem it. Pachas mikan. But what's if they were not proportionate? They were condensed. So he's going to have to move out one of the trees because it's not going to grow well. Each tree, in order that it should grow well, it needs room of 250 feet around. If it was condensed too much in one area, so or yoisal came, or it was spread out more. So if it was spread out more, so it's not considered as a zdei elam because it's taking more. It's a different land, a different tree. It's not together to call it a zdei elam of 3 trees. Or he's makdish each tree separately. So if he's makdish each tree separately, I say lo yikdish, lo yasakar kevah, lo yaseilanes shabadein. So he brings down over here from 7. So he says over here magdish ilonis hasmuchim zelazem more. If he took here he brings down the hashbam. If it's too close, ain't a magdish imayim misakak. He's not being magdish the kaka within if it's so close. Why? Because it's considered as a val. It's like a forest. Veloy lizdei elon. He says if the chalkum. I'm sorry. Elon is not more. I'm sorry. If it was, I said maybe condensed. I meant the opposite way. If it was too far one from the other, more than 250 feet, it's not in the geda of a sada. It's in the geda of a yar. A yar means a forest, a val. And then if it's too condensed, he says, then it's also no good, because he's going to have to uproot one of the trees anyway. It's not considered as 3 trees being there, because it's not a sada ilan. And so too, one who's magdish ilan is one after another, so it's not together. So lefika kishu pay the paydas ilan is b'shavyayim. In such any of these 3 cases, it's not connected to the karka. It's not called as the ilan. And if it was magdish the trees, and he wants to redeem the trees, he has to pay the full shavius. It's not in the geda of karka, where the Torah made a special din for zdei achuzah, karka achuzah, that you can get it for 50 silver pieces for 30 sa. Lo yoi. And not only that, is even if he was magdish. Oh, I said already the 3rd case. Here it is. Not only that, even if he was magdish the trees, first he was magdish the 3 trees, and then he was magdish the karka between the trees. So he says,
But
"Kishul
isn't
pay
the
them."
cock included with the tree?
Yeah, but he separated them. So if he did it, he separated them. He did it bazah chazah. How did he do? He didn't do all the trees. Before we said shehigdish and bazah chazah, what?
The price, how did the price say?
Veloy oid, from where you asked me, from which words?
From the beginning of the price of Tanya.
Yeah, no.
It said there that first it was Magdish the
All three Ilanis, all three, the whole Sunday Ilanis, so it's the whole Sunday Ilanis, so that goes together with the Karka. But here we're talking about he didn't do all three Ilanis together. He did one at a time, one Ilan at a time.
It was Magdish the Lotus, and then he went and it was Magdish the Karka.
Yeah, but he means to say Kishu, right? He didn't. He separated it when he was Magdish. He said separate. He separated what the words of how he's being Magdish. It was first Magdish the Ilanis, and then he was Magdish the Karka. So Shahaya Makim Lema Shayivda Ilanis Agav Karka. I would have said, okay, he should be able to redeem it together with the Karka. Mishum Shabashas Hapidyan Gam Karka Kadesha. Because when it comes to redeem it, it's together as one. He says, since he didn't specify that he's being Magdish, the Kaka together with the Ilanes, when he redeems the trees for its full worth. When it comes to now redeem the Kaka separately, it's it's 30 saw for 50 silver pieces. So you had like this. One case is Asdei Elon is usually 3 trees, proportionate 250 amas around each tree. So that goes if he was magdish all those 3 with the karka, so it's one shot deal. He can redeem it as a karka, and all he has to pay is 50 silver pieces. What's if they were not proportionate? Either they were too condensed, so it's not considered really 3 trees, because one of the trees you're going to have to uproot, because they're not going to get the full chayas that they need from the ground. It was less than the shetach that is needed for 3 trees, so then it's not considered as day ilah, and therefore for the trees he'll pay full worth, for the karka separately. If they were so far apart, it was more than 250 feet around each tree, then it's not called Zdei Elon, it's called Yar, it's called a forest. So then again, he pays for the trees the full worth. For the karka, he pays just 50 silver pieces for 30 sloy. For 30 soy. And then we said if he was magdish each tree separately, so he didn't do it as Zdei Elon, he did each tree separately, then he has to pay the full worth of the tree separately, and the karka for 50 silver pieces for 30 soy. And the fourth case is even if he was makdish all 3 trees, but he separated in his words, he's being makdish the Ilonis, and then he said, I'm being makdish the karka. So then the Ilonis are sold, are redeemed for its full value, and only the karka is going to be for 50 silver pieces. So after you want money, like who is this? But I still learned that somebody who's makdish less than 3 of the trees in one shot, he does one at a time. He was not makdish the karka. We said the karka is one thing, and the Ilonis is a separate thing. The Ilonis he pays the full value, and the karka didn't go with the Ilonis if he sold each tree separately. Like, who's it following? Rabbi Akiva, if it's following Rabbi Akiva, Ha'oma. Rabbi Akiva said, Meich b'ayin yafa meicha. When somebody sells, he sells with a good eye. Because came magdish. How much more so? We said hegdish is even more that he's magdish b'ayin yafa. So if he's magdish b'ayin yafa, and he gave one, even if he gave one, he was magdish one tree, he was magdish it with the karka, because when somebody's magdish, he's not magdish just the tree, he's magdish with the land. B'ayin yafa.
He said that even though he said it separately.
You said, no, forget about that case. Take the case where he says he's giving one tree at a time. We said, so if he's giving one tree at a time, it's not going with the karka. What do you mean it's not going with the karka? It should go with the karka if it follows Rabbi Akiva. Because somebody who's magdish, he's not magdish just the tree, he's magdish b'ayin yafa, with the earth around the tree. And if it follows the Rabbanan, Ha'amri Rabbanan said, Meichahu, the b'ayin yafa, magdish b'ayin yafa, magdish. And if it's following the Rabbanan, so the Rabbanan are mechalik. They say, Meicha, tak is b'ayin ra. But by Hegdish, it's like Noisa Matana. So it's Ba'ayin Yofa. So it cannot follow. It cannot follow not Rabbi Akiva, not the Rabbanon. You said by one tree, when he is magdish one tree, he doesn't go with the karka. And according to Side Rabbi Akiva, Side Rabbanon, by Hegdish one gives it Ba'ayin Yofa, not just the tree. He gives it with the land with the tree. And we paskin that's not the land with the tree. They're two separate things. He pays full value for the tree, and the land is separate. So the Yemada elapshita Rab Shimon. Only you have to, it's self-understood, it has to follow the Shita of Rab Shimon, who says that Magdish is Ba'ayin Rohu Magdish. He says it has a din like Mechira, and just like by Mechira, one is Meicha Ba'ayin Roh, so too by Hegdish. And the Gemara says, so but Rab Shimon, who says Magdish Ba'ayin Rohu Magdish Alibidaman, who's he following? Who's Rab Shimon following? Because Rab Shimon was a Talmud of Rabbi Akiva. It says after the 24,000 Talmidim died of Rabbi Akiva started a new group, and those were Rab Shimon, Rab Chia, Rab Meir, Rab Yehuda. So Rab Shimon was one of the Talmidim. So who is he following that says Hameicha Ba'ayin Ra Meicha when it comes to Hegdish? If he follows Rabbi Akiva, how much Meicha Ba'ayin Yafa Meicha? He says Faket. A Meicha sells Ba'ayin Yafa versus Rab Shimon says Kloshkei Magdish Ba'ayin Yafa Magdish. How much more so when it comes to being Magdish, he's doing Ba'ayin Yafa. So he cannot be following Rabbi Akiva. It's not Rab Shimon wasn't going according to that Rabbi Akiva. Rab Shimon was going Alib the Rabbana. He was going according to the Rabbanan who argue on Rabbi Akiva. There's a Rabbanan that argue on Rabbi Akiva that says Hameicha Ba'ayin Ra Meicha. The Kasav Rab Shimon argues on the Tanakama, how you learn the Rabbanan, because the Rabbanan say Hameicha. They limit when it says Hameicha Ba'ayin Ra Meicha. How far do you say Ba'ayin Ra? Only by Meicha, by Mechira. But by Magdish, they'll say it's Ba'ayin Yafa. But the Reb Shimon argues with the Tanakama and he says, Ki heichi de meicha ba'ayin ra meicha. Just like when somebody sells with ayin ra, so Magdish nami ba'ayin ra, Magdish umeshaya ara. So too, when somebody's Magdish, so he's Magdish ba'ayin ra, and he leaves the karka for himself, and that's why this Braisa, Paskins, when he gives one tree to Hegdish, he didn't give it with the kaka. He kept the kaka for himself. So now from this Braisa it comes out that Reb Shimon holds like the Chachamim, that it's Meicha Ba'ayin Ra, right? So and Rav Huna, so now we have a problem on Rav Huna. Rav Huna said a din. Somebody who leaves even two trees for himself, and he sells the karka, he's leaving the karka, he's Meicha Ba'ayin Ra, he leaves the two trees for himself. So here we said that even according to according to Rabbi Akiva, according to Rabbanan, the halacha is Hameicha is be'ayin Yafa Meicha. So where Rav Huna, who does he follow? You want to say that Rav Huna follows the Chachamim? We said Rav Shimon is the one that follows the Chachamim. So how do we answer before? Rav Huna is the one that holds like the Chachamim, like the Rabbanan, and Rav Shimon holds like Rabbi Akiva. That answer doesn't work. The Gemara says even more so. But Kasha, it's even a Kasha from Rav Shimon on Rav Shimon, because Rav Shimon said before, by when somebody was Magdish the Karka, when somebody was Magdish the Karka to Hegdish was not only Kaina the Karka, but Hegdish was also Kaina the carob tree, the sycamore tree. Why? Because the Yonkim is the Hegdish. Since the Yonik, it's from Hegdish, so it's Geduli Hegdish. Geduli Hegdish, since it's going from the land of Hegdish, has a din like Hegdish. So before we said that Shimon holds that the Hamoicha is really Ba'ayin Yafa Moicha. When somebody gives to Hegdish, gives it Ba'ayin Yafa, he gives the karka of the trees to Hegdish. That's why. No, the Rabbanan according to Rav Shimon. So no, but Nish Rav Shimon. Rav Shimon went like the Rabbanan we just finished off. Rab Shimon will hold like the Rabbanan and learn not like the Tanakama, as the Rabbanan will halten, as Hekdesh has a din like Moichet, as is Ba'ayin Ra. And you don't get the Karka. So here we said that Shimon says when he gives a tree to Hekdesh, he's not giving the Karka. And before in previous daf, we said when somebody gives the Hekdesh the Karka, so they get the trees also because they got the Karka of those trees. And these trees are living off of the Karka of Hekdesh. So therefore it goes to them. So it's a steer in Rab Shimon itself. Says you want to know, it's not. Really the primary sheet of Rab Shimon is like this thing. That when somebody gives a tree to Hekdesh, he's keeping the Karka for himself. He says, 100%. And he says, Bechira, Hekdesh is Ba'ayin Ra. How do we explain, he said, Rab Shimon said before, that the carob tree, if he was Magdish the Sada, Rab Shimon said the carob tree goes to Hekdesh because the Karka did go to Hekdesh, because when somebody was Magdish, he was Magdish Ba'ayin Yafa. So says Rab Shimon, that wasn't my Shita. That was the Rabbanan Shita. And Rab Shimon was going like this. Rab Shimon the Rabbanan Kabbalah. Rab Shimon was saying, according to the Rabbanan, that you say that one is Magdish is Ba'ayin Yafa. Lididi Keheich the Meich Ba'ayin Ra Magdish Navi Ba'ayin Ra Magdish. I hold my primary Shita is that Hekdesh has the din, the same exact din as Mechira. Just like when one is Meicha, he sells Ba'ayin Ra, and he doesn't include the land of the tree. When he sells the Sada, he keeps the land for himself. So too when he's Magdish, the Sada, he's keeping the land for himself. Mishai, he leaves the land for himself. Ella Lititchu is asking only according to you, Rabbana, that you say by Hekdesh you're Magdish, Ba'ayin Yafa, like somebody who gives a matana. So he was saying, I have a problem with you. The loy higdish ala charav hamorkav v'sadna shikma. He says the only thing I'm asking you, you should limit yourself by Hekdesh. Not say he's mamish like a nice matana. Say that Hekdesh is when he gives the Hekdesh, it's in a nicer oifen than when somebody sells. Somebody sells his Ba'ayin Ra. But when somebody gives the Hekdesh, he gives Ba'ayin Yafa, mitagvul. He says limit it, that only the Karka, but not the Buri and the Shoiva. Not everything that has nothing to do with the Karka. Anything that has to do with the Gufa Karka, he says, okay, that I understand.
Anything that has to do with the tree, you mean?
Anything that has to do with the Karka of the Sada. He gave him the Karka of the Sada. So the land of the tree belongs to Hekdesh. So that I agree. That's how far you should go. But everything else, not. You said that the bird, the gat was the wine press. And the shevach and the dove cuts has nothing to do with the field. Why should it be kaina? Rabbanan said, "Loishna, we don't make a chilek." So now we answered the stira. He gives, he says it's like a nice matana. You give even more than what you said because it's haggish. Usually, even if you say Ba'ayin Yafa, you give it exactly like you said. He said, "Don't give more here. You're giving much more." So the Rabbanan said, it's like a nice matana. So it's not a kasha. The Shimon's primary shita is Hekdesh and Moicha is Ba'ayin Ra. And the Karka he retains for himself, like the second Baraisa. And therefore, if he gives one tree, he did not give the Karka with the tree. He gave just the tree. So he has to pay, if he wants to redeem the tree, full value. The Karka is the only part that he gets it for a bargain for 50 silver pieces for 30 soy. Okay, correctly, how did you establish this? But I said, Rabbi Shimon, like Rabbi Shimon. So it doesn't make sense. How do you say it's like Rabbi Shimon? Look what it says in the Sefer of the Braisa. It says, not only these trees that he was magdish without the karka, that he has to pay for the ilonis, full value, even if he was magdish all the ilonis, the 3 ilonis, but he said the Lanis in one sentence, and then the Chazri Higdish is Hakak in another sentence. What do we say? Kishu Peida. Peida is Hayilanis B'Shavyayan. When he wants to redeem the trees, he has to pay the full value. It's not part of the Karka. And and then when he wants to be paid the kak, that's where he gets the bargain. In fact, your mother, that's true. Eat Reb Shimon. If it's following Reb Shimon, Lezer a pidyon. Reb Shimon goes according to at the time when you're redeeming. When he has to redeem, what is he redeeming? 3 trees with the karka. And 3 trees with the karka is one thing. He should only have to pay 50 silver pieces, not pay for the tree separately a full value. Let him redeem the ilanis together with the karka for 50 silver pieces. The shamina leila Rabbi Shimon, because we learned according to Rabbi Shimon, the azabas opinion. Rabbi Shimon goes according to the time when you're redeeming it, and when you're redeeming it, you're redeeming the trees together with the karka as one. Where do we see that? The Tanya.
I'm saying that we should treat it that way. But
We should, right? Why did the Braisa paskin that we don't?
He wants to redeem both.
When he comes to redeeming, he's redeeming both as one, as a package deal. Where do we see that we go according to the pidyon? The Tanya we learned in the Braisa. Where do we know that a son, he bought the field from his father, and then while the father was alive, he made it hegdish. Now, when the halacha is, if you take a field and you amagdish it, then it has a din like zdei mikna, and you want to redeem it, you have to pay full value. But here's a little tricky. He bought the field from his father. He was magdish it, and now when it comes, and then the father died, so now it's called our inheritance. Zdei achuzah. Zdei achuzah, you only have to pay 50 silver pieces.
But he bought it. So
He bought it. He bought it from the father. But once the father dies, it's called zdei achuzah. It anyway will go back. Once the father dies, it's called zdei achuzah. It's this day that
So he can get a refund of his money.
he could get when it comes to redeem it. He's redeeming it as a zdei achuzah. He doesn't have to pay the full value of the field. He was magdish it when the father was alive. And then the father died. And now it comes to redeem. What are we redeeming? After the father died. It says zdei achuzah. So he says,
But it's his field of his money.
it's not exactly his field. It's the field of his father, from his father. It's called zdei achuzah once the father dies. Then afterwards the father died. So it says here, once the father dies, v'nasa hasoda lizdei achuzah, the yadaben becomes now it's called zdei achuzah. How do we know when it comes to redeeming it has a din like zdei achuzah? Because the pasuk says it says if from this field that he bought he made hegdish, and then it says asheloim is zdei achuzah, which wasn't a field of yet of inheritance. Why does he have to say that? If it says it's a field that he bought, it's not a field that he inherited. Yagdish Hashem, no be Magdish Hashem. So what does he have to say? Asher loy mizdei achuzah. So he comes to teach us Sada shein re'uya li mizdei achuzah. Only a Sada that's not shaykh to ever become a zdei achuzah. Like if you bought it from somebody else. If you bought it from somebody else, a field, and even if that guy dies, it's not a zdei achuzah for you. It's that field eventually has to go back to those to those people. So that's called a zdei mikna. Here we're talking about yotzah. So we're excluding this case. Re'uyali is zdei achuzah. It could turn into zdei achuzah. If the father dies, it becomes their inheritance. So then the halacha is, even though he sold it as a zdei mikna while the father was alive, but when it came to redeem it, the father was dead. We call it a zdei achuzah. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon, and all he has to pay is 50 silver shekels. For 30 something. Rav Meir says, no, I take it a notch lower. That's too big of a chiddush to say he sold it while the father was alive. This pasuk teaches us a lower level chiddush. How? What's the lower level? How do we know when somebody bought a field from the father, and then the father died, and only afterwards, so later, after the father died, how do we know it's going to call it zdei achuzah? It's a lower level. Here it's more zdei achuzah than the previous case. Because when did he give it to hegdish? Only after the father died. Even though he bought it. So the chiddush is, even though he bought it, it has a din zdei achuzah. Talmud Leima, ve'im has zdei miknas, hashem is zdei achuzah. the extra words Asher loy mizdei achuzasa yaz Hashem. Sada sheina zdei achuza. A sada, only what kind of a sada is that you're going to have to pay the full value. A sada that can never be a zdei achuza like you bought from somebody else. Yatzazud, excluding this one, that he was magdashid after the father died. That in the time of Hekdesh, he's zdei achuza. It says zdei achuza. Says Yemar Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon. Afilu heicha de ikdisha, leave out afilu heicha de ikdisha, where the son was magdashid first. He bought it, and then he was magdash. V'achakach beis aviv, and then the father died. Min alahu. From where do you know that it's still called zdei achuza? Says Yemar Ima Haikra. If you're going to say it's from this same pasuk, Asher loim zdei achuza, say even look at that meyu diyatza. Say it teaches us the lower chiddush. When you're coming to teach us from a yitur, from an extra word in a pasuk, you don't jump to tell me the biggest chiddush. You take the smallest chiddush at a time. Which one is the smaller chiddush? That the son bought the field, the father died, and then he was makdashid, and has a din like zdei achuza. But to say that the pasuk comes to tell you that son bought the field, the father's still living, he was makdashid, and then the father died, it still has a din like zdei achuza. Where do you come up with that? That's too much. You can't jump to such a big chiddush. It's not because of the pasuk. It's rather because we go according to when the person is redeeming the field. So when he's redeeming the field, at the time when he's redeeming, it's called zdei achuza. We don't go at the time when he was makdashid. We follow the time of the pidyon. Really, I can tell you no. We don't go bas opinion. You don't have a raya that you go according to when you redeem it. Like he tried to ask on Reb Shimon. No, we go according to when he was makdashid. And that's the halacha. Over here, we go according to when he redeemed it. It's only b'hacha krash k'chuva darish. Here they found the extra pasuk to tell us that even if he sold it while the father was alive, and then when he came to redeem it, the father was dead, it's called zdei achuza. That we learn now from a pasuk. But normally we don't. He was magdashid when the father was alive. So what's the extra pasuk? Because him came lichtet krav im as they mikras asher lo yachuzase. It should have said v'im as they asher lo yachuzase. Why does it say mizdei? V'im as it says v'im mizdei. Should have said snei. So from the extra mem inami, so he says because it's snei achuzase my asher lo mizdei achuzase. Why do you need that extra mem? Says the extra mem tells us that the second chiddush that even at the time when the son was makdashid, the father was alive, it wasn't called zdei achuza. Yatzazu. I'm sorry, the pasuk tells you that in the time when he was makdashid, it wasn't roy to be a zdei achuza. It was before it was redeemed, right? This other has to be redeemed for its full value. Yatzazu shero uyali is zdei achuza. Here, it's excluding this field that it could become a zdei achuza. So a field that could become a zdei achuza later, then it has a din like zdei achuza when it comes to redeem it. That we learn out from the extra pasuk. But normally we don't go after the pidyon. Normally we go after the time when he was makdashid. Why? Because amirasa legavaya kinsiras lehedjin. When he said he's giving the Hegdish a tree, it was without the land. So Hegdish got a tree for its full value. Now you want to say, okay, but now when I'm being paid the tree with the land. That's already you want to make Hegdish lose money because officially they were supposed to get for the tree separately full value when he made it Hegdish. Because the minute he said, I'm giving it to Hegdish the trees, Hegdish was supposed to grab the full value for it. Now when it comes to the Padilla, it's 3 trees with the ground. No, you can't make Hegdish now lose money at the Padilla. Here it's a special pasuk. It says, Saka'ayito. This adult cheshev tree, these two types of trees, the carob tree or the sycamore tree, have a din as a ilan and has a din like kaka. How do we see that? It has a din like a tree. Oy zabin, in a case where a person was magdish, or he sold shnei ilones, 2 trees stam, the high and the charuf was the 3rd tree. Now the charuf is a whole separate tree. Charuf is a cheshvet tree, it's like its own field. When we say shnei ilon, 3 trees, you're kind of with the earth, it means 3 normal trees. But here you have only 2 normal trees, and then you have 1 cheshvet tree, which is really a shem b'fnei atzma. Could you combine it to make it into shnei ilon? Says yeah. So that's what he wants to say. This is where we see Todas Ilon Allah, and you're kind of the karka for these two simple trees because of that special tree. And then Yeshloi karka has it in like karka. How? I'm sorry, Yeshloi karka, and then those 2 normal trees get it together with the karka. So like you bought a shnei ilon. What's Todas karka? I love it. This chodev tree has a din like karka. How do we see that? The leim is not magav ka'ara. If somebody sells land, and on the land is the carob tree, he only sold the land, not the carob tree, because the carob tree has a din of a field of its own. He didn't sell him 2 fields, he sold him 1 field. It's a chashva tree, that's why he has a din like karka. Omer Ravuna hat gesagt, Omer sheyesh b'sasayim, Todas Omer Allah, Todas Gadish. Omer that has so much, the halacha of shicha is, if while in the time that you're gathering what you cut, the bundles, and you drop 2 bundles, you have to leave the 2 bundles for the aniyim. But if it's 3 bundles, you're allowed to go back and take it. You can take all 3 back if it's 3 together. So what happened here? A chavila, there was a bundle that had sasayim. It's not called already anymore. That bundle is really called a godish, a pile, and it was together with 2 other bundles. So he says, Todas Allah, Todas Godish Allah. Todas Allah, the shnei aimarim, 2 aimarim, 2 bundles if you left in the sada, then it has a din like shicha, and you have to leave it for the aniyim. But shnayim, let's say you had 2 bundles, but who? And this big bundle, that's sasayim, which is called really a pile, ain't a shicha. We combine it as if it's 3 bundles.
You can't forget about it.
And it's not, I know, but he said you could combine it to make it like 3 bundles, even though the 3rd one is not a bundle, it's called a pile. But we said we could combine it and he could go collect the other 2 bundles. Todas Gadish Allah, but it has a din like a Gadish. Let's say if he left a bundle with this pile or the pile itself, the pile doesn't have a din like a bundle. There's no din shikha. So it has a din like a pile. That Rab Nachman holds they're not included in the sale of the soda, and the Rabbanan say they are, again, Rabbi Nachman Rabbi Yossi says they're not included. Einam Mukdashim Bichlal Hasoda, the karka of these trees. I'm sorry, the trees are not included. Shamagdash Hikdash Hasoda B'Ayin Rabbi Shila Atzmei Choruv Uzdan Im Makmin Lekasam. So when he was Magdish the field, he was not Magdish the Choruv, these 2 chashva trees, because he says it's being yonik, he kept the karka for himself. The Rabbanan say it is Mugdash Mechlal HaSadah. In fact, why do you have to say Machlikis between Rab Nachman and Rab Yossi and the Rabbanan? You could have said this was Machlikis of Rab Shimon and Rabbanan before. And the Rabbanan Hakamashwan. This was he wants to teach us. The Rabbi Nachman, but Rabbi Nachman, but Rabbi Yossi kept Shimon Svidallah. He wanted to tell us that Sifan Bachashit, Rabbi Nachman, Rabbi Yossi, that it will hold like Rab Shimon, that the karka he keeps for himself. And when Hekdesh gets the land, he doesn't get those trees because the trees are kind of with the karka. It's being yonik from his own karka. We shall return to you, Perik Meir.